Welcome to the FnF Victory Road Draft League. The draft process is now officially over, and you could actually check out the draft process in a different video in this channel showing the picks in the order that they were drafted. Tomorrow, the draft league officially starts, and today I thought I would upload a video giving my initial thoughts on each team, such as the team composition, which Pokemon to watch out for, strategies of the team, and other information that comes to my head. This isn't going to be a scripted video. I might introduce a scripted or more thought out in-depth look at each team, but this is just an introductory look at the teams of the draft. And one more thing, I will be putting music for each team. The teams actually submitted music that they thought would represent them. Teams that I didn't hear from because this was kind of a last minute choice. I picked music that I thought would fit them well, so I hope they enjoy it. So I hope you enjoy this first impression, this first-hand look at the teams of the Victory Road Draft League. So we start with Appletun Allegiance, the team led by Colin. Here we have the music Encounter Hop. Hop is one of his favorite characters from Gen 8, so I thought it was very fitting. So let's take a look at the overall composition of the team. It looks like we have some big threats offensively right off the bat with Megalopony there. I would say that Megalopony is probably the Pokemon to watch out for most in this team. Because of Scrappy, it is able to attack ghost types that might switch into its normal or fighting moves, and that coverage is really, really nice together. So I think Colin's team is going to be about setting up the perfect condition for Megalopony to go ahead and go for a sweep. Some of the Pokemon that Colin has do a good job in allowing for that to happen, particularly Ninetales Alola. Ninetales Alola with Aurora Veil can set up just enough defense for Megalopony, whose defenses aren't really that bad. They're pretty average. Ninetales Alola can set up Aurora Veil so that Megalopony can take a hit and hit back really hard. If there's any Revenge Killers or Scarf Pokemon on the other team that might want to try to take down Megalopony before Megalopony takes them down. So that's going to be a good team to watch out for there. We also have Rotom-Mow, who could act as a nice pivot into Megalopony, depending on whether the opponent is faster or slower and what typing the opponent is. And we have a few Bulkymons, Walrein and Heatran being the two that stick out to me. Dragalge could be a little bulky as well. These Pokemon can help kind of keep a slow momentum and slow pace of the battle until Megalopony is ready to come out. One thing that I'm thinking with Colin is that he's really going to have to time when Megalopony comes out. That's, I think, one of the most essential Pokemon for his team. Another thing that I think is interesting is that he could use Decidueye, who, by the way, has Z attack moves enabled. And Decidueye can trap a Psychic type that might give Megalopony trouble. Fast Psychic types or even bulky Psychic types can attack Megalopony super effectively and might not be taken down by its hard hits, depending on what Psychic type it is. I'm thinking Slowbro, Reuniclus to an extent. And finally, Megalopony has to watch out for some bulky Pokemon, bulky waters especially. I think Rotom-Mow can be a good Pokemon in pivoting away, but also ensuring that those Pokemon are pressured so that they don't mess up Megalopony. So the elephant in the room with this team is Voltorb being picked. Prior to him, we had a pick of Natu, which we'll see soon, which was kind of a surprise pick early in the game. But Voltorb, I think, definitely takes the cake of the most surprising Pokemon to be drafted. And I'm really excited to see if he actually uses Voltorb and what Voltorb decides to do. Definitely could be a gimmicky choice there. Not even Electro, just Voltorb. So we'll see what's going on in there. And overall, I'm really excited to see what Colin will bring to the table this time around. I think I mentioned it in my prior introductory video. He's been practicing a lot, and he's really been trying to learn from the battles that he's been doing. So I have a strong faith in him and what he can do, and watch out for that Megalopony. That's what I'm going to say. That's the key to fighting him, will be to make sure that Megalopony can't get that sweep on, I think. So let's move on to our next trainer. We have the Bayside Divers, headed by Sir Roland. And the music we have is Battle with the Rival and Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. So the first thing that sticks out to me to this team is, well, first of all, the aviation theme. Latias being based around a plane as a Pokemon, and at least somewhat, I think. Sort of like the Aeon legend mixed with a plane that's a dragon for some reason. Really cool Pokemon though, I like it. And then we also have Staraptor, we have Natu, we have Skarmory, so we have quite a few flying types in there. The most powerful flying type, I'd say, would be Staraptor, who can hit extremely hard with powerful, reckless recoil moves. And Latias can also be surprising with some wide move pool special hits. Staraptor and the other flying types are going to have to be careful with electric. One thing I noticed about this team is that there's not an electric immunity in the ground type, and there's a lot of Pokemon that are weak to electric, such as Blastoise, Skarmory, Staraptor. So that's something that Sir Roland's going to have to be very careful about. Strong electric type Pokemons that come out, they can be threatened by Mega Tyranitar, I think, if Mega Tyranitar goes for an Earthquake. And Luxray can also come in on an electric attack, but might have trouble taking down other electric type Pokemon. So something to keep in mind. I think the other part of it is Latias, who can come in on an electric type attack and can set up or threaten to hit hard. So Latias might be one that Sir Roland wants to hang on to. I mentioned in the last first impression there that Natu was drafted and it was a surprise pick, and indeed it is a surprise pick. Natu, Sir Roland being famous for posting the cuckoo clock Natu saying good morning pretty often, which we all like to see. And so I was actually the one who said draft Natu as a joke, but he did it. The madman did it. But it's important not to sleep on Natu, because Natu can be more defensive than meets the eye. With Eviolite and setting up a Reflect, Natu will take very few HP points, will not be damaged a lot by opposing attacks. It is passive, but it can be a thorn in your side if you don't know how to play around Natu. Finally, speaking of thorns and sides, Dark type is another type that Sir Roland might have to be careful with, considering Natu, Frostlass, Latias. However, Gardevoir and Mega Tyranitar can be used against other Darks, as well as Absol to a degree. And Staraptor close combat. Let's not forget about that. So this will be an exciting team to watch. I think I'll have my aviation themes playing, perhaps, sometimes when he's playing. So I'm really excited to see how he moves about, and Staraptor, I think, is definitely going to be the one to watch out for him. So on to our next coach. We have Butcher Blisseys, headed by Fingered Witch. So Fingered Witch, as I mentioned in the last video about the introduction to the league, is pretty famous for gimmicky sets. They really like to be someone who uses unexpected and fun strategies, and I think that really informed the choices that they made in this draft process. right off the bat, if you look at some of the options that Fingered Witch has on their team, such as Mega Altaria, Jirachi, Blisseys, Ditto, Spiritomb, Arcanine, and Lurantis, many of them, most of them I'd say, can switch between physical and special attacks. They can be defensive in both departments as well. And they could run a variety of sets with their wide move pools. Ditto being both the lowest move pool and the highest move pool, considering its move pool is anything that the opponent has. But it's a good option to unleash on your opponent as a gotcha, I guess, as a counter to their strategy. I think Blisseys is going to be the star of the team, being both the logo Pokemon and the Pokemon with Z crystals attached. Normally, one would think leftovers for Blisseys right off the bat, but this is a testament to the fact that Fingered Witch really does like to go off the beaten path and surprise. So don't think that you're safe against Blisseys thinking it'll be passive, because it might surprise you. Mega Altaria and Jirachi make a really good core. That's something that I wanted to mention as well. Mega Altaria can take the dark types that threaten Jirachi, as well as the ground types in the base form, since it has flying type. And Jirachi, alternatively, can take the fairy types that threaten Mega Altaria. So that's a really good core, and it could be used very versatile. Mega Altaria and Jirachi both able to pull off special and physical sets, as well as different defensive sets. So overall, I think that Butcher Blisseys is going to be a team all about unpredictability, and that is something that makes the league more fun, more exciting, and more challenging. And I think that's something that Fingered Witch is definitely going to bring to the table as we move forward, and I'm excited to see what they come up with their gimmicky and off the beaten path sets. So on to the next Pokemon here. Coach, I mean. We have Rio Grande Rapidash, headed by Emberhoof. And I'm sorry, the music in the last one was Roxy's Gym from Pokemon Black and White. The music we have this time is Mirabee's Retro Groove from Pokemon Coliseum. Really great track here, so he has good taste there. But the good taste doesn't end just at Mirabee's Retro Groove. His draft picks are surprisingly comprehensive, and I say surprisingly because some of the Pokemon that he was able to choose, I expected to go sooner, but he really got his hands on a lot of popular, strong Pokemon, and I think he'll be able to use his team very effectively. The embodiment of popular, strong Pokemon on his team is probably Landorus Therian, being one of the most used Pokemon in Pokemon Competitive throughout all time, especially in Gen 7. I think one of the only Pokemon, or the only Pokemon, being used more than the Tapus. So that's going to be a Pokemon to watch out for. And Mega Aggron forms a pretty nice core with Landorus Therian. Landorus Therian being able to come into the ground type attacks that might threaten Mega Aggron, and Mega Aggron being able to come into the ice type attacks that might threaten Landorus. On top of that, Alomomola fits into this picture really nicely. Landorus being able to take the electric types that threaten Alomomola, and Alomomola again being able to take the water and ice types that threaten Landorus Therian. So that's a very strong core there. Mega Aggron, Landorus Therian, and Alomomola, very hard to take down. If you're going up against this core, you might want to make sure that you have special moves, because the Pokemon in this core are a lot more physical than they are special. So that's something to keep in mind. Exploud was also one of his picks that he used last time, and he very much likes that strong, scrappy, boom burst, wall breaking ability, which he used pretty effectively in the last league. So I'm sure we'll see more of that. And on top of these strong picks, the Z Crystal Pokemon of Latios and Zeraora are extremely good choices. Latios with the wide move pool being able to use any sort of Z Crystal move, and Zeraora being able to use its speed to its advantage to pull off a really strong attack to wipe out a Pokemon that could be problematic to the team. So overall, I think there is some strong promise in the cores that Emberhoof can make with this team. And I'm really excited to see how he utilizes these Pokemon. Looking at it, I just keep thinking, well, what about this Pokemon? It's countered by that. What about this Pokemon? It's countered by that. There's very strong type diversity on this team. And yeah, it'll be very, very tough to take down the defensive, tanky cores that constitute his team. So on to the next coach. We have the Detroit Dunsparces with Startoad leading the team. We're listening now to Battle Rival Gladion from Pokemon Sun and Moon. And right off the bat, round 3, or as early as round 2 actually, I knew that he was going for a Rain team. And this is a good example of a Rain team right here. We have 2 Rain setters in Politoed and Pelipper, so you could expect to see one of those probably every single match coming from him. One, if not both of those. And we also have Mega Swampert with Swift Swim, very powerful in the rain, hard to take down. Now, you may think, well, rain teams usually populated by water and electric type Pokemon. So a good counter to those teams would be grass. And to an extent, that is true. Grass will be hard for this team to handle. However, there are Pokemon that can take grass-type moves, such as Yanmega, Galvantula, Weezing, and Venomoth, and Guzzlord, actually, and Zapdos. So there's a lot of Pokemon that can take grass-type moves. So what Startoad is really going to want to do is be careful with who takes the grass-type moves and who takes the electric-type moves, and switching into those predicted moves, because those are the 2 most troublesome types for this team. Specifically Mega Swampert, who could take electric-type moves, but not grass. On top of that, we do have a few surprise picks as well. Porygon Z, being able to use Z moves, that means Z conversion, which boosts every single stat and changes the type of Porygon Z, which can be used to usually change it into an electric type, but we might see some other types here too because of the fact that we're already seeing a lot of electric types on this team. Now, one thing that does stand out to me is that there's a lack of steel types on this team, and also a lack of fairy types. So there's actually no steel, fairy, dragon core like many of the other teams have. But this could be an advantage to the point that it's something that the other teams aren't doing. Rain is a very cohesive archetype and can be used very effectively because all the Pokemon kind of work together and are powered by the same weather. So we might see some weather wars because of the rain that's going to come from Detroit Dunsparces. This is a very Gen 5 reminiscent team as well, in my opinion. And I am a big fan of Gen 5. I'm also a big fan of Dunsparce, which he got, so I very much approve of this team. And I think it'll be fun to watch and to fight. This is one of the teams I really want to try fighting. I love fighting rain. Next coach we have King Fuse leading the Elemental Dragons with the background music here of Battle Kyurem. So Elemental Dragons has some interesting things going for it. First of all, some very powerful wall breakers. We have Kyurem Black, who can bulldoze through teams on the physical side, and we have Moltres, who could actually hurt very hard on the special side. So these two will be 2 Pokemon to watch out for. Mega Beedrill can also act as a strong wall breaker and a pivot, depending on what you need at the time Mega Beedrill is out. So, strong offensive presence, but also some good defensive presence here too. Clefable being a good defensive catch-all, lots of roll compression there, so Clefable could do a lot of different things. And some tricks too. If he brings in Zoroark, that could really trick you into using a move thinking that you're facing a particular Pokemon that you might not be facing. One thing I will say is that there is a overall, I'd say, rock-type weakness on this team. Mega Beedrill, Moltres, Articuno, Salazzle, and Emolga, all weak to rock. And there aren't many Pokemon that can take rock hits easily aside from Nidoqueen. So that's something that I would caution, making sure that there are plans for any rock types that come out. I'd say also that Defog is almost mandatory on this team because of the Pokemon like Moltres, Articuno, Salazzle, Emolga, Pokemon that don't want to take that amplified stealth rock damage. So Defog coming from Moltres, Articuno is going to be useful. The problem with that is that Moltres and Articuno don't want to come into Stealth Rock to defog them away, so hazard control is going to be very important for King Fuse to be aware of and to keep in mind of as he moves forward in this draft league. But I think Clefable has really good roll compression and can kind of mitigate some of those problems with rock types being troublesome, as well as being able to use its many unpredictable abilities and movesets to an advantage. This is the first time that I'm seeing King Fuse, as well as Startoad, who we just analyzed, in battle, so this will be a fun demonstration of what they have to offer to this league. So next up we have Grand Island Jolteons, headed by Napkin. And the music we're listening to right now is the Frontier Brain music from Emerald, which has, in my opinion, the superior Battle Frontier. The other one was still good. So let's take a look at the team he has crafted. Thundurus Therian is the first thing that sticks out to me. Also having a Z-Crystal allowance, being able to use strong Z-Crystal moves, and being able to provide support to the rest of the team in terms of electric. So Thundurus Therian and Mega Sceptile work together really nicely to be able to absorb any electric type moves that come to this team's way. This is a big relief to Pokemon like Ninjask and Tapu Fini, who are not going to want electric type attacks going around, particularly Tapu Fini. And he has two ways to do it, Mega Sceptile being able to boost special attack, and Thundurus Therian being able to recover HP from opposing electric type moves. We also have some utility Pokemon that have a lot of different uses here. Klefki, with the Z-Crystal allowance, using any Z-Crystal move and wide move pool, and Uxie as well, both defensive, both all-rounders who have decent tools in their moveset to be pretty unpredictable. And speaking of unpredictability, we also have Silvally, who can change type according to need. This is going to be key for Napkin in being able to counter specific threats on other teams by having a Pokemon type, a particular Pokemon type. Lucario is a good choice. It's the Steel type on this team. One thing that I think Napkin might have to be careful of is the fact that Lucario, despite having Steel typing, isn't quite defensive, so won't be able to form as strong of a core with Tapu Fini in terms of defense. But what Lucario lacks in defense, Lucario definitely brings in offense. Offensive pressure on both the physical and special side, the ability to set up and attempt for a sweep, priority, and strong stab combination. So there's a good mix of Pokemon that set up status and hazards in certain support moves, and also strong offensive Pokemon and Pokemon that can be used for a variety of situations. So I think Napkin is going to do a pretty good job in building teams that are specific for what he needs. I'm also excited to see Napkin personally in this league because he wasn't able to complete the last league. So I think we're all happy to see him here and able to play with us, and I think he'll really bring it. So next up we have Mystical Chain, headed by Coach Noel, which happens to be me. So I'll be talking about my own team a little bit. The first thing that I think people will probably notice is the amount of not fully evolved Pokemon I have on my team. I think I have the most not fully evolved Pokemon and the most tier 4s, which is where most of them reside. Magneton, Golbat, and Piloswine. So you can expect to see Eviolite from me, and knockoff is going to be something that I have to really be careful about because of the fact that there are a lot of Pokemon that really like Eviolite on my team. One of the big aces in the hole that I have is Mew, who in this format is extremely effective with the stat spread and move pool that it has, as well as the fact that I gave Mew Z Crystal allowance to use any move. So it's going to be interesting to see what sets I can pull off with Mew. I intend to really try to be unexpected and versatile. And overall, I think one of the archetypes I like in my team is balance. I like Pokemon that can take a hit and give a hit. So I don't have too many stalling Pokemon, and I don't have too many sweeping Pokemon, but I do have a few. Lycanroc Dusk can be used as a late game sweeper on the physical side, and Volcarona can be used as a special sweeper after a boost, elevating it to really strong levels. So those are two Pokemon that I'd say watch out for on the offensive side. The other Pokemon are relatively defensive, but aren't necessarily sitting ducks. So for example, Milotic, defensive, but can still fire off an attack. Piloswine, defensive, but can still fire off an attack. And then finally we have Mega Sableye, who I intend to use pretty nicely to control status conditions and hazards utilizing Magic Bounce. And that's going to be really important to me, especially because Volcarona does not like Stealth Rock being up. So hazard control is something that I've taken into account with Hitmontop, Serena, and Mega Sableye all being able to get rid of hazards and ensure that Volcarona isn't hit very hard by those. I'm really excited, personally, to be in this draft. I wasn't able to participate in the last one. I was, but I gave my slot up to somebody else because I wanted to Quest, because I really wanted Quest to participate, and he was able to, which I'm really happy about, and he did a really great job. And so this time I'm really excited to participate. I have a very analytic and I like to plan a lot when it comes to these things, so don't expect me to go down without a fight, you guys. But mostly I just really want to have fun and commentate and strategize and just enjoy the league to its fullest, and I hope that everybody can as well. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is End's Castle. But we're going to be moving away from End's Castle now onto the next coach. And this is Canopy Defenders with Edgar as the coach. The background music we're listening to is Steam Cave from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which Edgar really wanted to represent. So in my introduction video, I predicted that Edgar was going to have a few dark types, and I was not wrong. There's, let's see, 3 dark types on the team: Umbreon, Crocodile, and Houndoom. So management of those dark types is going to be important, being able to take the threats to dark types, particularly bugs and fighting types, as well as fairy types. Now I think fighting types might be some of the more troublesome for this particular team, because the dark types are more inclined to go specially defensive rather than defensive, particularly Umbreon. and strong offensive fighting type moves can dent a hole in Umbreon for sure. So that's something to be aware of. However, Mimikyu is a good counter to fighting types that could come, not only having Fairy type Stab, but Ghost type to be immune to those fighting type moves. So Mimikyu is something that I think we could expect to see from Edgar being paired with these dark types as a way to deal with any threats that come. To handle Fairy types, Registeel will do a particularly good job. I could see Registeel being effective in toxicking the opposing fairies that might give trouble and doing a slow battle of attrition. For Registeel, Wish support will actually be pretty important in recovering. So we have Wigglytuff here who could pass very large wishes to Registeel and keep Registeel alive. And they have pretty decent synergy together, Registeel being able to come on poison types, and Wigglytuff being able to come on, well, fighting types, not particularly because of the normal type, but Mimikyu is there for that. Finally, we do have a few dragons as well. Mega Charizard X and Garchomp, both strong offensive dragons, and Garchomp in particular can have a lot of versatility with what kind of set it wants to use, whether it's bulky, whether it's offensive, whether it's a mixture of both, even going into the special territory. So I think those are going to be Pokemon to watch out for as well. Overall, I think the Mimikyu, Registeel, and Garchomp / Mega Charizard X Core can work pretty nicely. Something I think Edgar might want to be careful of is ground, but Mantine and Lilligant can come in on some ground threats. And finally, we have the Z Crystalmon Z attack. Crocodile can fire off a very strong attack and hopefully get a Moxie boost from that. And Necrozma, wide move pool who could use a variety of attacks, so be on the lookout for those two for sure. I'm really excited that Edgar has joined. He's been excited about doing something Pokemon based on the server for a while, and so I hope he has fun with this first Pokemon based event that he does, and I look forward to seeing how he does. And on to the next coach. We have Wooper Blooper, Coach Lion Hugs. Here we have the music Silly Psyduck from the Pokemon anime. Very fun and whimsical theme that I actually really enjoy, and I think it fits with the blooper picture there. Very, very cute Wooper picture. So let's go over some of the Pokemon here. We have some special attackers that are pretty strong off the bat. We have Chandelure, and, well, Superior not being strong off the bat, but being strong over time. So those are the two big special threats. And Mega Heracross, Dragonite, and Feraligatr, and Metagross as well, actually, being the physical threats. Toxicroak entering that territory too. It seems like this team is more physically based than specially based. Sylveon can use a effective special set, as well as Superior and Chandelure. But Chandelure is going to be very important for taking down steel types that Superior and Sylveon have trouble taking down. We also see Metagross, Chandelure, both having a weakness to Dark. So Toxicroak might be effective, and Sylveon in being able to combat some of those Dark-type Pokemon. Dragonite having the Z any allowance for Z Crystals is pretty interesting, considering Dragonite has a nice move pool and can go both physical and special. And Chandelure's strong special attack means that it can be a nuke and hit very hard on opposing Pokemon. The one thing I'm thinking about right now is the fact that it has Energy Ball, so it could take down some bulky waters using Z. Bloom Doom, I believe, is the Grass-type variant of the Z moves. Overall, some bulky Pokemon that can also hit hard, such as Metagross, Dragonite, Sylveon, Mega Heracross to an extent. and Quagsire being the evolved form of the logo Pokemon. Very good for Unaware and being able to come in on sweepers and basically shrug and say, I don't care. So I think overall it's a decent team. And we might see Pachirisu come out channeling the VGC from a while ago, making its name that way. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Wooper Blooper will bring to the table. This is the first time that Coach Lionhugs is participating in a Pokemon-based event on the server, so I'm also excited to see how they do in that regard as well. On to the next coach. We have Dutch Inkays, headed by Quest Requested. The music we're listening to is Steel Battle from Pokemon Conquest. This music being relevant because of Mega Steelix, and also Durant. We can't forget about Durant. So right off the bat, one of the Pokemon to watch out for here is Victini. Victini being an all-rounder, being able to hit both physically and specially. Victini having a wide move pool. Victini having relatively decent bulk, good speed, and very powerful attacks that can really devastate teams if you're not careful. V-Create, I'm looking at you. So Victini is definitely going to be one to watch out for. It was utilized in the last league very effectively by FFC, and I think Quest wanted to get Victini as soon as possible because of those strong records that Victini has in our draft leagues. Quest and I have a similar taste in Pokemon, I'd say. Bulky Pokemon that could also hit back. However, I think this time Quest went a little bit away from that. Last time he went more for that with Clefable and Celesteela and Mew. This time I see a lot more fast offensive threats, such as Jolteon, Durant, Hitmonlee, and to an extent Crobat as well. Additionally, we have Azumarill with Z any privilege, which means we might see the Z Belly Drum, which is very exciting. And Hydreigon, who can drop a strong special nuke, but also hit on the physical side if you're not careful. So overall, there's a lot of offensive and offensive presence and good momentum. Some pivots we see here, like Jolteon and Crobat, that'll help this team really gain steam and bulldoze through the other team. I'm really excited to see Durant in particular. I haven't seen Durant for a while in competitive since Gen 5, so I'm excited to see what that brings. And I'm also excited to see Porygon 2, Rhydon, Amoonguss, Mega Steelix, some of those more bulky Pokemon that can slow the momentum when Quest needs it, and then he could bring it back up with other Pokemon. Overall, I just want to say that I'm very thankful to Quest. I know I said it in the last video, but for helping organize this league, including me in the process. We both have been working very hard to have this be a success, and so thank you, Quest, for rebooting the draft league and for really helping with the doc and everything structurally that's needed for this to be a success. Because so far it's a success, and I'm really excited to how it's going to go. All right, so next coach. We have Downtown Darmanitan with Coach Tiller, and the music we have here is Encounter with Bere from Pokemon Sword and Shield. So right off the bat, this team is almost identical. It's about over 50% identical to the last, or around 50% identical to the last team that he had in the preseason. Centered around Tapu Koko and Pelipper. Unfortunately, he was not able to get Pelipper this time, so he won't be using Rain, I think, as much as he did last time to boost his Water-type attacks, especially from Golisopod. But he still has Electric Terrain on his side, Raichu Alola being able to utilize that Electric Terrain, and some of the similar picks from before that were strong, fast, or priority, and were able to hit very hard. Examples of that: Tapu Koko, Zygarde 10%, Golisopod, Raichu Alola, Mega Sharpedo, and probably Darmanitan with a Choice Scarf attached too. All really fast strong Pokemon. And I think Tiller likes that playstyle in general, being able to bulldoze through the opponent team. Leans more offensive than defensive, I'd say. Still a couple of defensive picks from the free picks like Mandibuzz, Gliscor, but overall I see a team with a lot of momentum. So that's going to be a dynamic that's interesting to see how he moves forward with his offense. If he goes very offensive, if he tries to slow down a little bit sometimes. But overall, some really powerful Pokemon here. And then Mega Sharpedo being the Mega he got this time instead of Mega Altaria like last time. Mega Sharpedo will be another one of those fast Pokemon that is hard to take down due to having Speed Boost in the base form. Can't utilize it as much as in the last draft league, but it could still only take one Speed Boost for Mega Sharpedo to be able to go ahead and sweep a team. So be careful of the offensive power that comes from downtown Darmanitan. Really good embodiment of the Darmanitan, of Darmanitan as a whole. Darmanitan being extremely powerful, and this team goes to show that offensive prowess. So on to our next coach. We have the Murican Braviarys, headed by Noob Scrub, and the music we're listening to is the Johto Trainer Battle from Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Now, where we had offense with Tiller, we have a lot of defense with Noob Scrub. Noob Scrub being the stall player of the league, I'd say probably the most defensive player of the entire league. We see some of those similar picks from last time, like Chansey, well, Chansey instead of Blisseys, but still defensive, Empoleon, Mega Venusaur, and Braviary as well. Some new defensive picks like Toxapex and Dusclops. And then a Pokemon that will help with the team and its stalling efforts, Tapu Bulu being able to set up grassy terrain, helping Mega Venusaur in both turns with recovery and also attack, and also helping Blossom, who's a new addition to the team. I think going against this team is going to be very about managing chip damage. Getting hit by Stealth Rock, getting drained by Leech Seed, getting poisoned by Toxic. Managing those things will be key in being able to overcome the stall of this team. This team was, well, the Murican Braviarys, not the exact same draft team, was undefeated in the last season, so we'll see how the tactics work this season and how far he gets. Very strong strategizer, and he has some new toys to play with here. Toxapex in particular, not going down easily at all. One thing I noticed is that while he uses Toxic and Poison to take down opponents, he is actually not as susceptible to Toxic, with Toxapex, Chansey, Mega Venusaur, and Empoleon all either straight up not being affected by Toxic, or being able to heal Toxic in one way or another. So, stall versus stall looks like he's pretty equipped to win if you decide to go to the stall route. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of strategies people try to take down this team. Blossom having Z-Any is also interesting. The fact that Blossom has Quiver Dance and some surprising moves that you might not expect. I actually ran Physical Blossom before with Drain Punch, and it was certainly a surprise. And then Braviary being able to have a nuke with the Z attack, which is funny because the team is in some way modeled after the American theme with Braviary and Gumshoes as the last pick as well. So this will be a very exciting team to watch. Some long battles, lots of strategy, and Mega Venusaur, the MVP from last preseason, doing very, very effectively. So we'll see if someone can take him down or if he remains the stall king. We're really glad he's joining us again this time. Really cool guy, and excited to see what he brings with his team. And then finally, last but not least, we have the Great Tacticians headed by Coach Kudo, listening to Zinnia's theme in battle from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This is the guy to beat, seed number 1 from last preseason. Very effective battler, a good tactician as well, as his name implies, because he really thinks through and tries to counter the opposing team very effectively, and his win streak demonstrated that. This time he brought some interesting Pokemon. He brought some of the Pokemon he had before, such as Celebi, and he also has some varied types and niches here. This time it looks like he's actually leaning a little bit more defensive than offensive, with Zygarde 50%, Ferrothorn, Marowak Alola, Florges, and Bastiodon. All of them except Bastiodon being defensive Pokemon that can also attack back, but defend really well. So, unlike Noob Scrub Stall, he kind of is leaning more towards defensive, but balanced defense, sort of like my team. So that'll be interesting to see. Celebi with the Z any privilege abilities to use from its interesting move pool and decent stats both physically and specially. And then Vigavolt being able to hit a strong attack with Z attack. Now there are a few things that he might have to be careful of. One, Ice, since Zygarde 50%, Celebi, and Vigavolt all go down to Ice. We might see Ferrothorn being used quite a bit to be able to defend from that. And Cloyster, depending on what the threat is, might be able to come in on anticipated ice moves and then set up and try to sweep. We also see some pivots here of Passimian and Mienshao, both having a similar niche, so I don't think we will see both on the same team, but there's options depending on which route he wants to go with Mienshao and Passimian. And then finally Mega Absol, Mega that we didn't see last time in the preseason, having Magic Bounce and very strong attacking ability, so we'll see some of that. Overall, I think the team is a little bit more offensively inclined in terms of physically inclined when it comes to attacking versus specially. So it'll be vital to have some strong physically defensive Pokemon that can take some of those strong physical hits, or wall breakers that can power through the balance team he has. But knowing him, he'll be able to predict effectively and provide a tough battle no matter who goes against him. And so I think he's going to be very exciting to watch. Alright. I believe that covers everything from each coach. So what's next? Well, tomorrow we start match scheduling. So battles are going to start coming in for week 1, starting tomorrow on Monday the 9th, I believe, of December, and ending the next Monday. So stay tuned for some battles, and in the future I might have some more analysis videos. This is more of a first impression video, so I'm looking at teams at a glance. Later I might have some in-depth analysis and hopefully get some co-commentary from some of the coaches themselves or some of the other people who are interested in participating in this league, whether as a participant or as a observer. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and for watching, and let me know what some of your thoughts are. I would love to hear, and stay tuned for what is sure to be a very exciting and interesting Victory Road Pokemon Draft League on the FnF server. Thanks everybody, stay tuned.